What is going on, y'all? This is your boy Ollie Footy, man. Big upset today. I did predict this. I thought Bodo Glimt was going to advance, but I did not expect them to win at the San Siro. And to be honest, this whole tie, Bodo Glimt won quite comfortably. It's quite amazing, man. And I want to make sure I shout out and highlight Bodo Glimt because what they've done today is so big for the history of Norwegian football. Like I don't know if a Norwegian club's ever been this far in the UCL. And I was tweeting and I was thinking to myself, yo, this Bodo Glimt side, not only are they beating Inter comfortably across this tie, but now you're like you've got Inter, you've got Atletico Madrid, you've got City, all on your resume. They remind me of those major streets won't forget team, which is Monaco 16-17 and Ajax 2019, right? Those teams, right? Monaco with Mbappe and Bernardo Silva and Radamel Falcao and Fabinho, and I can name others, right? But those teams were so good, right? And obviously they ended up getting ransacked by bigger teams. But you think of the teams those teams beat, right? That Monaco team beating Manchester City, beating Dortmund, you know, that's like what we need in the UCL, right? It's been a while since we've had a team like that in the UCL. I feel like a team that's upsetting at that rate, and I honestly can't remember. Like I guess Lyon back in 2020, right? They beat Manchester City and they beat Juve, but they ultimately lost to Bayern in the semifinals. But I don't know. I don't know who else like since then. Really, like I can't think of them. Maybe you guys could think, oh, 2022 Villarreal. It's been a minute. Okay, so there's actually been a little bit more. But yeah, it's nice to see you once again because we haven't seen it since 2022 Villarreal. And the Streets Won't Forget team. I mean, you could maybe say that Dortmund team, but the thing with that Dortmund team is that Dortmund team was good, right? Like that Dortmund team not only was good, but it was like their core, like their regular players that they had. Like, it was still Adeyemi and it was still, Brandt there. They're still there. So it feels different. It's not like those other teams where the big clubs come in and kind of ransack and take the best players. With Dortmund, it's the same players there still. And really, Dortmund should have won that UCL final anyway. But I also think the status of Dortmund probably helps into why that doesn't feel like as big of an upset kind of club there. But yeah, it's nice to see, and I think Bodo Glimt can go down with those Ajax and Monaco teams and those Villarreal teams. But man, what does this mean for Inter? Well, really, what does it mean for Italian football that your next champion, right, who has 10 points above the league's second place, like they're 10 points ahead in the league, gets knocked out before the round of 16 of the UCL? I don't know. I don't know. A lot of people are sounding the alarm bells saying this is, you know, a, a death of Italian football. I don't know if it's a death of Italian football as much as it is the birth of these lower status teams finally like rising to these occasions, rising to these levels. Because you look at the structure of the UCL, there's a lot more money in it now, especially if you're a smaller club than before. Like the amount of money that you get just being in the UCL is incredible. I think if you make the top 20 or something, like you get more than the Europa League winner. Like you get a lot of money is what I'm trying to say. And if you're a smaller club, right, you'll have to sell players because that's your main source of income and revenue. But now that you're in the UCL and you're getting paid, 40 million just to play in the UCL, that doesn't even count like the win bonus and stuff, right? Like that's huge. That's game changing. And now you don't have to sell those players. You can keep them a little bit longer at least and build a squad to fight for the UCL. And I think with Bodo Glimt, it's really interesting because they don't have a huge cash injection from like an ownership, right? Like that Monaco team did have a cash injection a few years prior, right? And they don't have the legacy of an Ajax or like an academy of an Ajax, right? And that's not to say Norwegian players are bad, but you know like the Norway player pool, as hot as it's becoming now, it's not compared to the Netherlands, right? It's or to France. So it's for this Bodo Glimt side to get into the round of 16 just off of developing players and building these nice tactics and trusting your manager, and this manager is great, right? He has his team playing very good football. They were cutting Inter up on counterattacks, man. It was not even like a contest. It was at will. Like they could have scored four today. They really could have. But to do all that and to get to this point has to be has to be applauded. And I think UEFA actually were hoping for something like this to happen because they invested in events like this occurring, right? In clubs like this. And this is good to see, I think. This is good for football. Which is crazy because I know UEFA gets a lot of shtick, right? And rightfully so, right? There's a lot of criticisms about many things, about many aspects of how they run football. But I think if you're a smaller club and now you get into the UCL, it can change your whole everything. It can change your whole future of the club if you use it right. And Bodo Glimt absolutely have used it right. And even before, last season they were in the Europa League, they made it to the semis, lost to Spurs, but nobody saw them coming this far, and they beat Lazio on penalties. That was a great watch. I remember. I think they're in the Conference League before that, so to be able to build and build and build season after season, like that's so cool to see, and you do not see that in European football. This is like NFL, like or NBA, like it's almost like you're like getting draft picks and building your team off of that, right? You're getting money in this sense, but like that's cool to see. That's so cool to see. And I think for a long time in European football, it's always been about the status quo. And if you didn't have a lot of money, you were never going to get into the circle, right? And it's cool to see that a team can do that without having to go through these extensive, takeovers or to have to hope that you get a golden generation out of your academy. Like that's nice. With that being said, I don't think as far as Inter is concerned, you can be disappointed, but you can't feel hard done by. I think you lost to the better team, quite frankly. This Bodo Glimt side is playing amazing, and Inter just weren't at it. And to give Inter some grace, no Lautaro, that's tough to deal with. And a lot of people give Lautaro shtick for they say he doesn't show up in big games, or he's when people are watching, when everybody's watching, that's when Lautaro Martinez goes. He only plays when nobody's watching. But I don't think that would have changed anything genuinely. Maybe they put away some of these chances that they had. There was a lot of headers that you'd imagine should be on target. Maybe if Lautaro Martinez was there, he puts it there. But they missed a lot of headers today, Inter. But I just think Bodo Glimt was a better side, and especially when you compare like the budgets between the two clubs, there's really no excuse for Inter. They also didn't have Çalhanoğlu, but there's no excuse. Like you should be beating Bodo Glimt, right? You really should be, just based off of the amount of resources available to each club. And Inter just got outplayed. It sucks. And as far as Italian football is concerned, right now you have your leading league leaders by 10 points out before the round of 16. Juventus is on the verge, right? Napoli, out in the league stage, right? Napoli's out in the league stage. He didn't even make it to the knockouts. And Atalanta's down 2-0 to Dortmund. It's rough, man. It's rough. That is rough. And I don't think Italian football is just dead, right? It's going to take a lot to kill Italian football. But I think it's definitely a shift. It's definitely a shift. And there was a point in the game where Inter. Alright, I need a water. I'm sorry. There was a point in the game where Inter was basically making a lot of substitutions and ended up changing formation, right? And when that happened, when they changed out of their 5-3-2, like that's Italian football, right? Three at the back or five at the back, two striker setup, right? That is Catenaccio. That is the signature hallmark of Italian football. That formation. and then they changed to basically a 4-3-3. And when that happened, I felt like that was like a big symbolic shift, like that lets you know, okay, that Italian style does not work in Europe. And I think that's what we're getting at now. And with Inzaghi, he wasn't playing a classic Italian style. There was a lot of variation to it, right? The center backs rotated a bunch, which is not particularly what you usually see. This this was mind not even mind boggling, but it was like, yo, like, okay. I think we're getting to that point, right? Does the Italian style of football work in Europe? And no, it doesn't. Obviously, with Conte, it hasn't. And Atalanta, I don't even remember who Atalanta's manager is right now, but like that's doesn't work, and that's hugely disappointing for Italian football because now you got to go back to the drawing board, and it's like you just assimilate and convert to these modern formations around Europe now, or do you remain steadfast and stubborn and keep that? I don't know. It'll work if you have a lead, but if it's not good enough to not take 5 goals from Bodo Glimt, then what are we doing at the end of the day? On the other hand, still a great victory for Bodo Glimt. I'd love to see where they go from here. I think they have City or Sporting next, and I think if you're them, you can start to dream because obviously they beat City, and it's not going to be easy to beat City again, but it's doable, right? If you've done it once, surely you can do it twice. And Sporting, tough team to go and play. Obviously, they beat PSG, but this Bodo Glimt side, man, they got real potential. I think they'll go down as one of those teams, as one of those Monaco's, Ajax's, Villarreal's, Lyon's. They'll go down with them. All right, let's take a look at some of the other fixtures. Been yapping about Bodo Glimt so long. These other fixtures weren't as enticing. Atletico Madrid versus Club Brugge. I didn't think Atleti was going to lose this game at all. I thought the Metropolitano would be too much for Club Brugge. But really, I don't think it was that. I think Club Brugge just defended poorly, and at the end of the day, Atletico Madrid was more clinical. Obviously, Cardoso hit that crazy banger, but Club Brugge was just less clinical than Atletico Madrid. As simple as that. Club Brugge had quite a few chances, I think. You can see they had 1.8 xG, two big chances. That doesn't tell me how many they missed, but one big chance missed. But I felt like Club Brugge had opportunities in this game and they just didn't put it away. And then the game started to get out of their reach once Sorloth scored that first one. But yeah, it's tough for Club Brugge, especially Carlos Forbes, who I thought had a really good performance today. Gave him a 6.9. That's crazy to me, but he was giving Ruggieri work, man. He was absolutely dogging Ruggieri today. But yeah, Atletico Madrid, they just have that talent in the final third that Club Brugge just didn't, and it's as simple as that, eventually the goals were going to go in. Good on Sorloth, ugly hat trick, but, it's ugly in the sense where it's like it wasn't because of him, he was just finishing things off, but yeah, you ask your striker to put those away any day. Good win for Atletico Madrid. I think they face Liverpool or Spurs. That's going to be a nice tie. It's going to be really interesting to see, especially if you get Spurs. Atletico can start to dream. I don't know if they'll get any further than the quarterfinals, but you never know. The other two games weren't that exciting. Newcastle Karabakh was obviously a formality. I'm not even going to click on this one. If you watch this game and you're not a Newcastle Karabakh fan, I'm very interested to know what you do because there's no sporting intrigue for that game, in my opinion. Leverkusen, Olympiacos, Leverkusen just plays the advantage, or not the advantage. They play, well, yeah, they did play the advantage, but they also played the objective, which is obviously just to qualify. And yeah, honestly, Enter and Bodo Glimt was the big headline here. But yeah, it's incredible, for Bodo Glimt, and I'm really excited to see where this Bodo Glimt team goes. You're looking at the bracket. Let's take a look at the bracket because now you got half of it semi like done. I don't even know if you could say half. I don't know what this would mean, but let's say half, right? 4 out of the 8 teams. um, but yeah, I'm looking at this. I'm thinking, does this mean that Leverkusen, like, let's say Leverkusen were to win, they're not going to, but I think this means if Leverkusen were to win, then Bodo Glimt would meet Leverkusen if they both won, right? Which would be crazy. I don't think that'll happen, but yeah, Bodo Glimt, like, I'm looking at the bracket and it's like, if you get past City or Sporting, you have to go against Arsenal or Bayern. I think it'll end there. I don't know, man. If Bodo Glimt were to beat Arsenal or Bayern, that'd be the craziest result ever. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it, man, but I don't think so. But I think if you're a Bodo Glimt fan, enjoy this journey in Europe, man. This is gonna be so cool. Newcastle, on the other hand, if they get Barcelona, I think Newcastle could beat both of those teams. Chelsea's been very inconsistent, undisciplined recently, and I think Newcastle, especially, you got to go to St. James, and I think that'll be the first leg. Newcastle could leave with a goal advantage if they went up against Chelsea, and that might be tough to overturn. But on the other hand, you also have Barcelona for Newcastle. That Barcelona team leaves gaps like Swiss cheese sometimes. So if you're Anthony Alonga, if you're Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes, Voltamata, you're running into that no problem. It just depends if you can stop Barca from scoring, and that's the one thing. But yeah, that's Newcastle's got a chance. Like, if they can get past the round of 16, I think Newcastle's got a real shot at a semi-final, which would be insane, insane. I'm just thinking about the potential here, and we won't know till the draw on Friday, but there's so much potential here, and you compare it maybe to last season's knockouts, and you know it might be more exciting. The thing with last season knockouts was that we had these like two really big matches with PSG Liverpool and Madrid Atletico, and to have that was really nice. But the rest of the round of 16 wasn't as um, intriguing at all. Dortmund Lille was actually really good. I remember that being very good. Lille, they had the return leg at home and they just couldn't get it going, man. I felt bad for them. But yeah, now when you compare it to this, you got a lot of big clashes potentially, right? You know, Dortmund Bayern or Dortmund Arsenal, maybe not that big of a clash right now, but it's still like that's proper Champions League heritage, right? But then like you're looking at Atletico and Tottenham, and I guess not Juve. Just if you're going off the club's size, Juve and Liverpool or Juve and Tottenham, like that would be a big game, but that's probably not gonna happen. But even Galatasaray, like that's still a tough game, right? And with the players they have too, and obviously you have PSG Barca or PSG Chelsea on one side, and then Newcastle on the other. Like that's huge games right there, man. Just based off of the size of the club, and obviously you have a potential Madrid versus City yet again. So like that's really exciting, and that's football isn't just played like by the size of the club, but I think there's a lot of jeopardy with this year's knockouts because I think outside of Bayern, I don't think anyone fully trusts a team, right? Arsenal can be the best team in the world. PSG can be the best team in the world. Right? Even Barcelona, if the Hansi Flick sets them up right, can be the best team in the world. It's not named Bayern. Bayern, I think, is the most consistently best team in the world right now. But yeah, like there's so much jeopardy. But there's just too many ifs, right? There's too many ifs. City can maybe be that team. You know, it's like Arsenal. You could easily see them. One red card and one bad penalty, and it's like they're out of the UCL. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much that can happen. There's so much intrigue, man. I'm just so excited. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, man, this is gonna be a fun UCL, man. I think this bracket's gonna be better overall than last year's. I think if you're a neutral, let's say your team's out of it early. Let's say you're an Inter fan or your team's not in the competition. Let's say you're a United fan. Um, like you can look at a lot of games and be like, yeah, I want to watch that, or I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna have fun watching this. Like you can. I hope they schedule these games right. Stagger these games properly. You can't do it to them all, but like if you have Newcastle, Chelsea, and PSG, Barca, and then you have Atleti, Liverpool, and Madrid City, like don't put those all on the same day, right? Put matter of fact, put PSG, Barca at 3, and then put Atleti, Liverpool at 12:45, and then put Madrid City the next day. Like what I'm saying? Like don't put them all at the same time, man. But we'll get to that later, man. This is gonna be really fun. I'm very excited for this. And yeah, really very good days. A very good day of football today. Next tomorrow's fixtures, bruv. This is well scheduled for the most part. Kind of. Yeah, it's tough because the Juve Galatasaray. You expect Galatasaray to win or at least qualify. So I would have liked that to be 12:45 so I could see that in entirety. Now I got to be looking at 3 different screens tomorrow. That's gonna be so funny. But hey, it is what it is. This is gonna be really fun. Tomorrow's gonna be really really fun, man. Can Juventus do it? Can PSG qualify and not mess things up? Can Madrid? No Mbappe, by the way. They're not gonna have Mbappe. They're not gonna have Jude. I don't think, right? They're not gonna have Jude. So it's just gonna be Vinny and Gonzalo Garcia. Is that gonna be enough? I don't know. Obviously, this whole racism incident is looming over this, and there's a lot going on with this one, right? There's a lot to just as a neutral sink your teeth into, and obviously Rodrigo's suspended. And it's like, wow, man, like there's I'm very doubtful now about Madrid to qualify, but they're in the Bernabeu. They don't lose there, unless you're Arsenal last year. Ah, man, bro, I don't know. People tell you football's falling off, man, but this is so exciting. This is so exciting. There's so many subplots and drama. Like there's so many teams right now who, if they were to lose tomorrow, their whole season crumbles. It's hilarious. It's so funny, man. There's just so many agendas to agenda and all of this stuff. But let me get out of your hair, man. Thank you guys for watching. It's been your boy, Ollie Footy. Until next time.